Well, I am glad that we finally got out with this COVID thing. You know, this is our first night out.
Right.
What time does the movie start?
I think it's like 7:30.
And what are we watching?
CANDYMAN.
15 minutes later.
All right, what was that all about?
I don't know.
We're just sitting here trying to get ready to do our movie review because I really think that this is a good movie, CANDYMAN.
A lot of boring math later.
I think we got rid of them. Now let's go ahead and finish up our notes so that we can do our APJMM takeover.
Okay.
I want to review CANDYMAN, not be in Candy. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Don't you touch that mirror.
I'm sorry.
What was that?
I have no idea. Who was that? Why was he here?
We're just trying to get through this. I'm afraid to say CANDYMAN.
No! Welcome to Tavern Talk. This is an APJMM takeover. I am Kwami.
I'm Clarice.
And we are the Abdul-Beys. We're the co-conveners of the Arkansas Peace and Justice Memorial Movement. And we are here to talk about CANDYMAN 2021.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Oh my God. Did you see the original one?
I saw the original one years ago.
Be my victim.
You remember it?
I don't really watch. I think I stopped watching scary or horror films. And this wasn't really horror, but it was gory. The first one was. That was like when I was in my early teens.
Friday the 13th did it for me. I haven't watched anything since then, but this was good.
Yeah.
This was surprisingly good.
Yeah.
I liked it. So what did you get out of this film? You know, this was Jordan Peele.
Yeah, I took some notes.
He came back with Nina DaCosta, and they teamed up together to do this film, and it was very interesting. It was very punctuated with some social justice relevancy.
Oh wow, a lot of it through this one. If I think if you would have taken the time to watch the first CANDYMAN, you may have seen some, but in this one, it was right up front. It was very up close and personal.
It's kind of like they threw it in your face.
No, it was in your face. I mean,
they threw it in your face.
You
They
didn't
like,
see all
white
of the
people listening, this is what we want to tell you.
Well, no, literally, it was more like systems. For me, it was like
Systems.
gentrification and
Gentrification, criminalization and marginalization.
Marginalization. I mean, you had the mental illness was put up front, like somebody being criminalized for being possibly mentally ill and not really knowing the issues with them would. And if you already had some biases going on, that you would like look at them and go, oh, you're dangerous, instead of, oh, you have a mental illness and I need to approach you in a different way. Saw a lot of that in I forget the CANDYMAN. Right, he was giving out the candy.
Hence the name.
He happened to have, and if you notice, he had a prosthetic in the beginning. Do you remember that? It was two hooked prosthetic, and then it was made to be.
Yeah.
Like when they talked about him, it was a hook.
Captain Hookish.
Yeah. And so I was like, wow, like the visuals of that, and then to think about how someone could make someone look sort of monstrous in the way as you told the story. You know what I mean? Or as you if you wanted to like do some injustice. I mean, of course we don't think about. I'm just gonna do some injustice.
I'm gonna sit here and plan out some injustice for tomorrow.
But seriously, if you are looking at folks through a lens of racial biases or any type of biases, if you have that lens and stereotypes, and you're already afraid of folks, right? Yeah. So the prosthetic becomes a hook.
Indeed.
And he becomes this monster that is already kind of made up in your mind. The issues that I saw was, again, this terrified, made up, built up story about who the CANDYMAN was.
Yeah.
And you know, when we work with and deal in historical content a lot.
That's that criminalization, marginalization that is ever present. And you know, this movie has a history behind it that is relevant to today. You know, even looking at the history of the story of Candyman. Candyman was a painter who was painting a white woman, and he just happened to be a slave, and he falls in love with this white woman.
He was enslaved.
He was enslaved,
okay.
Correct. Thank you for correcting me.
Okay.
And he falls in love with this white woman, impregnates her. Then a lynch mob comes after him, and they brutalize his body and cover his body with honeycomb so that bees can kill him, cutting off his arm, and then putting that prosthetic that you talked about earlier. And that is the story. So after they did all that, they burned his body and spread his ashes all over the land that was become Cabrini Green projects.
So this, the story of how he was killed.
Yeah.
And we're talking about how historically, even the work that we work with racial terror lynchings in the state of Arkansas, there's about 492.
Yeah.
Part of the work that we do is to memorialize victims of racial terror lynchings and also to bring some closure and some healing to the families and to humanize people who have been lynched. And this takes me, his story is so similar to the allowing of governmental or legal, almost like legal violence, if you will.
Sanctioned state sanctioned violence.
That's it. State sanctioned violence is where I was going, because almost in each of the segments or the stories or the parts of the movie, there was some level of state sanctioned violence with either the law enforcement or in our case with the lynchings that we've learned, 5 to 7 being in Pulaski County, they are all similar to what Candyman went through,
described.
Which is,
and that's
at some point
really...
there was a police or law enforcement there present, either being complicit in this lynch mob,
where the white woman,
right,
as what we talked about, the white woman becomes
the sacrifice.
The sacrifice.
And it's so odd and it's very eerie to hear that this young white lady or young white child was involved in this, or woman. But in each, almost 90% of them, there is a white woman, either of young age, or most of the time of young age, or a child who is the sacrifice.
Yeah. Now, the movie overall, what did you feel about it overall, the whole package, the complete package?
So let me say this before I get into that. And I mentioned the sacrifice in that way because the only other way that you can possibly have folks enraged and there be some state sanctioned violence there is if you are harming the most precious thing, I think, in society, folks think is you are now threatening the
precious jewel.
This right that we have here as far as our system of casting. So if I can blame you for either the rape, the murder, the harm of possibly a white child or a white woman, all of them being female, by the way, then I can have these mobs of folks and then I can allow them to harm you, and it would be, it would be justified. that I saw in that, and it also rings true historically. What was your question again? I really
package.
had to get that in.
Yeah, I see. But the overall package of the film, everything together, how did you feel about it?
I would definitely give Candyman a 5. And the reason I would give it a 5 is because of all of what we talked about. Is Peele was able to put in place all of the biases, all of the stereotypes, all of the fears that some folks may see in people, and all of the historical content of how these hives, which are these groups of men and boys, were murdered because they were feared one way or the other. Is Candyman actually a monster, or is he a person or a product of environment?
Yeah.
And he's then feared because he's a product of environment. He's misunderstood, being in the what they call the minority. Okay. And that is the issue. That's the question, really.
Okay.
What are you seeing? Are you seeing a person as a monster?
Okay.
Is this person
That's
then,
fair.
if they're seen as a monster, is it okay to either harm them or kill them?
That's fair. That's fair.
And so,
now, like I said, I didn't see the original 1992 version, but I did pull up Siskel and Ebert's review of the 1992 version, and 2 thumbs up for that. And I want to read a quote that Roger Ebert said about the first film. He said, "Urban legends tap our deepest fears, and one of the most subterranean involves the call for help that is laughed at or ignored." And we see that here, even in the beginning, with the police sitting out front and the little boy calling for help, and they initially do not even come. But one thing that I thought about is that in this film right here, it shows that is no longer a fear, it's more of a reality, an expected reality.
Yes.
And so even though all of this stuff was weaved together really well, the gentrification, the marginalization, the criminalization, and even being filmed where they showed Caprini Green past and present.
Yes.
I thought it was really well done, but what I felt was I was being forced into something that I already understood.
Yes.
So I don't think that it was for me. I think that this film was more for white audiences than it was for black audiences, because he was telling me something like, I already know that, man. Let's get,
Right.
So for that,
Right.
I give it a 3.
Okay.
For that, I give it a 3
That's
because
fair.
it kind of forced something on me, and I'm like, whatever. But it was a good movie overall. I like the packaging.
The one thing I would throw in before we wrap up is the say my name.
Say my name.
The slogan of
yes.
the say his or her name
Yeah.
type. And it made me think about the summer of resistance, of uprising and resistance.
2020.
Right. And all of the killings, and the hashtag was say my name.
Yes.
And that, to me, I thought that was weaved in righteously.
Now, I can tell you one part of the film that I give a 5, the shadow puppetry.
Oh my God.
The shadow puppetry
was
just
amazing.
blew me away.
That was amazing. Yeah. Can we talk briefly, because we need to wrap up. but the shadow puppetry of the different historical lynchings and the killings that happened throughout in different states. You had George Stetson, which was Stetson. Is that his last
George
name? Which
Stetson,
was the young boy.
Yeah.
Who was executed.
Yes,
And
he was
how old-
executed, I think, 14. I think that was the age that he was executed.
He was one of the youngest.
Yes.
and all around him.
Yeah, and
you
all
know.
of that was in the shadow puppetry.
Yeah.
So that I give a 5.
I
the
saw
shadow
James Bird. Did you see the
Yes.
James Bird
Yeah, I
where
saw
he was
James Bird being drugged.
drug in the
Yes,
back of the vehicle?
yes.
But that's also happened. That also happened to John Carter.
Yes.
Here
in Pulaski County.
Pulaski County, where he was drugged through.
Drugged down Markham
Yeah.
over to 9th and Broadway.
So I saw a lot of the puppetry. Like I said, was amazing. If you're gonna watch this film, the shadow puppetry was. If you are paying attention, need you to pay attention to it.
Watch
Right,
it.
because if you're a historian or anybody who kind of understands or knows or keeps up with historical or racialized violence, or kind of know what's been happening in the past, you will definitely pick it up from the puppetry. Not only that, you will then learn some things. You'll be like, oh wow, this has happened.
Well,
Yeah.
the first thing that came to my mind about the shadow puppetry, and I'll be short so that we can get out because we're making a movie right here.
Not the third time.
But the shadow puppetry brought me back to Richard Wright's book that was just recently published.
Okay.
The Man Who Lived Underground.
Yeah.
And watching the shadow puppetry, that's the first thing that popped in my head. And then you think about Richard Wright. Richard Wright lived in Elaine, Arkansas.
Yes.
His family got out before the Elaine massacre. And where did they go? They went to Chicago, Hyde Park. Hyde Park is where Cabrini Green is located. So all of those connections are really powerful. So
Yes, they are.
I
Very
appreciated that.
I really did too, and I appreciate your object. You being kind of like, this is the reason why. I just couldn't find anything. I feel you on the being kind of pushed into seeing it, but it was it's in your face if you do. If you're someone who is you're used to turning pages, and this is what you see on a regular basis.
Well, Siskel and Ebert didn't always agree.
You know that Virgine's speech is a second language?
Roger's first language is, yes, I'll have apple pie with my order.
So, this
Yes.
is a Tavern Talk APJMM takeover.
Yes.
I'm Kwami.
I'm Clarice.
And
Be sure to
thank
subscribe.
you. Yeah, thank you. Make sure that you check out we should have a
Somewhere.
somewhere around here on this screen you'll see where you can get more information about Tavern Talk and
Subscribe
also
to the channel.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
subscribe and more information about
Yeah.
APJMM. This is great. We need to do this more often, right?
Hey,
Who do we talk to?
We can ask. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Okay, can you hear it? Cause is my earring bumping up against this? Can you hear it?
No.
Okay.
It's good.
Okay.
No, you're good.
All right.
All right, so you guys can go whenever.
Shit out of me.